Okay, to the Houston Texans we go right now. Titus Howard put on the injured reserve. He has to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. He broke his hand in early August. There was hope that he would be available for week 1. And it does throw the Texans' offensive line into an absolutely messy situation. Where yesterday I actually went to NRG Stadium. DeMeco Ryans, when asked about who's going to be the starters on the offensive line, he said that he hasn't decided who that's going to be. I think based off of the reports, Jack Jones, George Fant are going to be involved in some way, shape, or form. All you can really go off of if you're a reporter at practice is what they show you the first 20 minutes, and they're very secretive about what you can and can't reveal. I feel like as far as the offensive line week 1, though, this is probably going to be a rather dubious task for the offensive line. You got a rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud. You're on the road. I'm not even really sure how the center is going to do or who the center is. I think it's that Patterson kid who's a 6th-round pick. It's going to be loud. Baltimore has a good crowd, so there's going to be potentially miscommunication between your center and quarterback. You're going to have issues on the interior offensive line as those guys all try to get in sync. You're going to have issues off the right tackle. I'm just having a hard time envisioning the Texans throwing the ball at all in this game, especially considering the receivers on the Texans aren't very good. Yeah, it doesn't bode well for week 1. And it does, I'm not going to lie, take a giant whiz on a lot of the excitement that I had for this new era of Houston Texans football, this Titus Howard injury. And I suppose I should have known better. It's a hand injury. He's an offensive lineman. If it's a hand injury, there's a chance it could be a wrist injury. If it's a wrist injury, I mean, that's pretty impactful if you're an offensive lineman. You need to be able to power your hands into defensive linemen and hit as hard as you possibly can. If it's a finger, I think you could potentially do it because they all have wonky fingers, offensive linemen. But I'm guessing this is one of those hand injuries that's closer to the wrist, making it a little bit more hard for Howard to get back on there. You should be cautious when it comes to the guy that you just invested in. But again, it sucks. It just sucks that they're probably not going to have him for a while. Hopefully they'll have him back by week 5.
Yeah, for this game, it doesn't. I mean, it changes kind of how I'll watch it. I'll kind of watch it with that in mind of like, well, this is still like kind of the replacements.
Lowered expectations.
Yes, but this was not a game I was like penciling in as a possible win for the Texans no matter what. I feel like we'll now learn even less about the Texans offense and CJ Stroud this game because he's gonna basically it's just gonna be Laramie Tunsil lining up on the left side and then like just hope to slow down the Ravens pass rush a little bit across the right side of the line. So it takes away from my excitement in that way where I almost think that we're not gonna learn anything very meaningful out of this game unless CJ Stroud like just rips apart the secondary for the Ravens.
We'll talk about it more tomorrow when we do the show, but I'm with you, Sean. This changes what I'm hoping for out of CJ Stroud in this game because when you got a rookie quarterback, you do watch games a little bit differently. What I want to see from Stroud in this game is, one, how tough he is, because he is probably going to get smashed around.
He'll be put to the test.
Sorry to sound like Colin Cowherd here. What did he say? Marble countertops, BMWs, the tougher the childhood, the tougher the kid. Well, CJ Stroud's obviously had a tough childhood, but at Ohio State, there's no denying that he did not get hit that much. I liked what Stroud said after the first preseason game, saying like, yeah, I actually liked getting hit. He's going to get hit a lot if the Texans pass a lot on Sunday. Hopefully they'll be able to carry themselves using Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary on the ground. But I'm looking for Stroud to be tough. I'm looking for Stroud to make smart plays under pressure, which means throwing the ball away, which means sometimes turtling and taking the sack. Those are the learning opportunities I think that Stroud's going to have in a game where he's probably going to be under siege the whole game. It's DeMeco Ryans' first game as head coach of the Texans, and I thought this was an interesting little tidbit. The last time that DeMeco Ryans suited up for the Houston Texans was January 15th of 2012. He actually was on the field for that Texans AFC divisional round game against the Ravens. In that game, the Texans would go on to lose 20-13, but it was a very noble loss. You felt very proud of the Texans going into Baltimore with TJ Yates, your third string quarterback, under center. Yesterday at DeMeco Ryan's press conference, I asked DeMeco if there's anything that he remembers from that game.
Last game I played, I remember it was a tough loss for us, right? Being in Baltimore, playoff game, right? Came up short. That young quarterback and TJ Yates, who was leading the way for us, and we could have done more, and we would have liked a better outcome in that game, but it happens. I'm proud of that team and where we were able to go with a rookie quarterback and being able to go to the second round of the playoffs. I think that was a very successful year for us, right, with the Texans, and proud of that team and what we were able to accomplish that year.
He should be. That team was really good in spite of the quarterback issues that they had when Matt Schaub suffered the Liz Frank injury midway through the year. And I do feel that at the very least that team would have shown more of a pulse than the next year's team that, of course, had the 11-1 start. Letterman Jackets get killed by the Patriots Monday Night Football, beaten by the Patriots in the divisional round of the playoffs. It wasn't very close. There was a moment in time where I think that team actually could have been competitive with the Patriots. And back then, that was when I was really a Patriots honk. And I felt like the way to determine whether or not an NFL team mattered was whether or not they could actually make it a game with the New England Patriots. Anyway, the Texans lose that game 20-13. Despite TJ Yates being under center. And there's a reason they lost that game. And it's something that drives me absolutely crazy. Because it happened early on. And this was a game that actually ended up being close at the end. No play in Houston Texans history triggers me quite like this one early on against Baltimore as the Ravens were about to punt.
Good kick from Cook. Bounces inside the 25 and touched by Jacoby Jones. Recovered inside the 5-yard line by Baltimore.
What could Jacoby Jones have been thinking in an attempt to handle that football?
A great question. I believe that was Dan Deerdorf. Oh, my God. Maybe my least favorite play ever. And that's saying something while covering this team because there's been some bad plays, like Brock Osweiler thrumbled. There was the J.J. Watt cat. But they had a chance to win this game despite that and despite TJ Yates nearly throwing 6 interceptions. And Jones, who seemed like a fun guy and annoyingly had that big kick return for a touchdown with the Ravens against the 49ers in the next year's Super Bowl. That play, though, you're like, what the hell are you doing? To the Ravens' credit, the punter on that play, he kicked it a mile. And Jones, I don't think knew 100% what to do with it. It bounced, and he came up underneath it to field it, and it just bounced off his chest. And next thing you know, the Ravens had the ball in a goal-to-go situation. They scored a touchdown. The final score is 20-13. I wonder all the time what would have happened in that game, even with TJ Yates under center, had Jacoby Jones not muffed that punt. Honestly, take a look at the statistics in that game in 2011. Because it was a master class by the Texans offensive line. TJ Yates is under center. He's 17 of 35. He's averaging 5.3 yards an attempt. And even with no passing game, Arian Foster ran 27 times for 132 yards. He was averaging almost 5 yards a carry on a Ravens defense that we all thought was one of the best in the league. They could have won that game if not for Jacoby Jones. Drives me absolutely insane. But it made me feel a little bit old to realize like that was the last time DeMeco Ryans played for the Houston Texans. And this also made me feel old. And you're going to cringe at the very end because I did something that I dump on media people a lot for. So I was asking Will Anderson about what a pass rusher is supposed to do when you're going up against a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, if you have to change up your style. And I'm not only going to sound old in this situation or thinking that I'm a lot older than Will Anderson, I'm also going to sound like a media chucklehead.
No, not really. I know he's a great player in college, you know what I'm saying, and in the NFL, you know, all the highlights and everything like that, and his tremendous, you know, career that he's had. But not really. Like we're not that far apart from each other. I'm not that young. I'm not that young. We're close in age, but he's a great player.
When you go into a place that is known to have a great defense, does that inspire you a little bit? I mean, Baltimore was built as a franchise, even though Lamar's on offense. But
yeah, it does. You know, Ray Lewis is like one of my favorite players. Now, I did watch him growing up.
Oh, boy. That was me at the end. That was me. Because he's making jokes like, oh, I grew up watching Ray Lewis. I don't know. I figured he was sort of growing up, being in high school for at least a brief moment of Lamar Jackson's time in the NFL.
Will Anderson is 22 years old, born in 2001. Lamar Jackson, born in 1997. He is 26 years old.
Okay. So I messed that one up a little bit. I guess you wouldn't really be growing up. I thought Lamar Jackson was older than 26. That is surprising.
He is shockingly young. I mean, when he won the MVP in 2019, he was younger than Joe Burrow, who won the Heisman that year.
That is also insane.
Joe Burrow also was in college for like 5 years.
He was there for a while. You're right, because he transferred, of course, from Ohio State. Man, it did make me feel old, that moment right there. And I'm glad that Will Anderson was like, well, hang on, like you're actually not that old. But I still felt old. Multiple moments yesterday at NRG Stadium. But it was good to be back out there. And I think Will Anderson's going to be funny this year. Truly. I don't think I'm going to be giving a media chuckle like that again. I'm rusty. It's been a while since I've been in a locker room. I couldn't help it. I don't know what to do with my voice.
Would you feel good if I gave you a media chuckle every once in a while?
Yes,
like
I would.
During the show.
But it's probably not a good idea, Sean. Yeah, you're going to make me think like I can go off and have a stand-up comedy career. Oh, wow. Now I'm not going to trust any of your laughs anymore. I don't even know if that's real. I don't know if that's real. F you. You've broken my brain.